Hi there, this is Bobby from Ragged Poet. I've been trying to make this video for about a week, but I haven't had much time, and my iPhone's just been playing up this morning and refusing to record since the new update has been a bit batty. So what's the video about? Well, it's kind of about it's a response to the Into the Wildwoods challenge, which Kelly from the Truth in Story is running on Instagram and I think Facebook, and she did a YouTube video about it, which I'll link below. I really wanted to do this challenge, but when she first announced, because I love the deck, the Wild deck, but when Kelly first announced it, I was thinking more of the deck and how when it's November in England, I kind of try and embrace that because I'm not happy over here. It's all spring, getting towards summer, and I don't enjoy those seasons very much at all. I'm a bit odd like that. So there was all sorts of reasons I wanted to do it, but the past few weeks I've been suffering quite a lot from depression, and I've been thinking a lot about my life journey with depression, how no matter how much you run away from it, if you do have chronic depression, which I do, there is no getting away from it. It comes back in cycles. It's been doing it to me since I was 7 years old. You think you've got rid of it and then it comes back again, and every time I've been hospitalized, I've had prescribed tablets, I've tried just about everything, always comes back. And I used to think of it as this something that had to be beaten, and then when you've beaten it and you come out, you think, yay, that's it, I'm done. And it's actually quite a dangerous attitude because it's not something we can actually beat. We have to learn to live with it and embrace it. And this is my theme for my Into the Wildwoods journey. Kind of very much walking with the wolf or the black dog. It is like a black dog. The Nick Drake song, Black Eyed Dog, was so true. The black eyed dog knocking at the door, the black eyed dog coming for more, the black eyed dog knows my name. So I want to say anything I say in this video is all my personal experience. I'm not advocating any of this to anyone else. I'm just telling you about my journey, things I've done, how I've reacted, and in no way, this is a kind of a disclaimer, I guess. This is all my own opinions and no prescriptions or, heal thyself guru stuff at all. But so yeah, I began the journey a long time ago, and relating it to the In the Wildwood thing, I started to think about my obsession. I've always been obsessed with the story of Little Red Riding Hood and the wolf, and I've always been in love with the work of Carl Jung. And Jung, Freud was the first one to actually realize, first psychoanalyst really, who introduced psychoanalysis, and the one who discovered that this hidden psyche actually has an effect on our physical being. But this is very much in a nutshell, by the way, very glossed over. He basically thought the hidden psyche was actually like a dump, and we should kind of learn to get rid of it and not deal with it. Whereas Jung took the ideas further, and the psyche to him had, in the subconscious, we've got the animus and the anima, which is, well, for the female, the animus is her inner masculine side, and it's a kind of anthropomorphic concept, and vice versa. So the male, the anima, is his feminine side, which we have to embrace. And also we have our shadow, and the shadow is something we also need to embrace. And this is all like Jungian. You can read lots about it. He's written heaps, and there's lots of, as I said, people who've written about Jung and the shadow, and he's even written, someone's written a book about Jung and tarot, which is a little bit bleak, trying to force things a bit too much, I think. But certainly the archetypes in the tarot and everything all go together with the concepts. Like Camborne is the hero with 1,000 faces. So we've got the shadow side, we've got the animus and the anima, and I actually did for my a degree I did a few years ago, which was also a way of coping with depression. I needed a reason to be, a reason to stay where I am. I had children at school. I needed to be grounded a bit, so I decided to do this art degree. I didn't really need it. My art's always been there. I've done degrees and stuff before, but I studied. Most of the time I was doing it, I did study. I focused on the animus anima, the shadow side, the Little Red Riding Hood stories, fairy tales, myth and folklore, and the work of Jung. And I made a few installations, and one of them was based on, and I made a lot of artist books, and this little book here is called Animus Anima. I may have showed you this before. Basically, it subverts the story of Little Red Riding Hood. So we start off, it's very simplistic because I'm no painter, and we've got Little Red Cap or Little Red Riding Hood standing in the forest and looking into it, and because it's a wintry forest, because I'm all about winter. And then we've got the wolf standing looking and he's caught sight of her. So he is like the shadow. And then he comes up and he tears off a piece of her cloak, and she's looking after him and kind of thinking, oh, you know, what to do. He's taken a bit of her with him. Basically, she decides, I can't beat him, so I'm going to go and play with him. And so she ditches the rest of her cloak, and off they go hand in hand. She is like animus anima, or she's walking with her shadow. And I said it's very simplistic, but that's just a very simple version of how I see it. I created a forest of light for an installation. I filled a room with this shadow forest, which took some working out, but it worked out really well. We have this big light festival, and I don't really have I think I might have a bit of a picture of it on my laptop, but I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Anyway, this festival is happens every year or every other year in Nelson, and as college students we had to create a light installation for it. It's all about light, and we have it in the winter. And so I created this. I wanted to create a shadow forest, a concept of, I can't really blow it up. I'll try and, can you see that? That room? It's actually quite a big room, and those trees on the walls are all shadows. So the idea was you could actually walk in and go for a walk with your shadow. Your shadow would be projected on the wall the way I set it up, and you walk with your shadow. And it worked for kids. I made lots of little hats and masks so they could be creatures in the wood prancing around with their shadows, and I was actually really pleased with that. I also did another installation with trees and actually a wolf and the tatters from Red Riding Hood's cloak as well, and the painting I've got behind my altar here. This is my little wildwood altar-y thing I set up. I'll try and insert a picture of the painting in, because if I move the camera I'll never get it back again. I've only got an iPhone and I have it set up on the tripod just so it can record things. So I did all this work with the shadow and walking with the shadow. And it was only really last week that I realised what this means with depression and the black dog. I mean, I knew what it meant, but this depression is part of my shadow and I have to embrace it. I cannot beat it. I cannot run away from it. It's always found me. I've tried running away from it. I ran to the other end of the planet to get away from it, but it still found me. So you have to learn to live with it. And so my journey of walking into the wildwood, is about this thing. So we did the opening spread, which again I've got here. I don't know if you can see it. And what we have, I'll just check what we had. So we had obstacle, and I got the 9 of bows, which is the key word there is respect. And when I saw him, because I'd already contemplated my journey of walking with the wolf, and I saw the Nine of Bows, I thought, oh my God, absolutely, there he is, look. And then we've got the stag, the seer, the Nine of Arrows, and the hooded man. And when I first saw the seer as the starting point and the hooded man as the ending, I thought it kind of should have been the other way around. But so I looked at these cards, and like with this one, I said I saw the wolf that I knew that I'd be taking this journey with, and he is representing my fears, and the black dog. And because bows are the summer, the wands, the summer suit, it's also another fear of mine is summer. I don't like summer. I think maybe I don't like summer. Maybe part of it is that when you're a darker person, maybe, and you see more of light, and it makes your dark blacker. I'm not sure if there's anything in that, but I don't know. I've always been the same. It's not something that happened suddenly. But he's confronting me directly and head on and challenging me to deal with the situation and commanding respect. And as I said, like this black dog, this depression, you have to respect it. You've got to walk side by side with it. You've got to communicate with it, because it's always there and it's always going to be a part of my journey. So that was very, very appropriate for the obstacle. The obstacle is the black dog, and I've got to respect him and learn to walk with him and know that he ain't going to go away. And then as guidance, I had the stag, which is normally the justice card, or it can be the strength card, but it calls for honesty and integrity, and kind of karma, reaping what we sow, and possibly realigning perceptions. But also, you have to forgive yourself. It's about being responsible for actions, but although we're responsible for our own actions, and everything we do create ripples and some karmic reaction, if you believe that, then so do the actions of others, and we're all part of this kind of this wheel. It's like if he beats the drum here, like everyone is going to come running, or the shield, will echo through the forest. It's going to affect everyone. So although most of us do not purposely act in ways that will hurt others, we're often like pushed into a corner to do things that may hurt others. We might say something in temper or in anger, but someone has also pushed us into that corner. So although we feel responsible, sometimes we have to forgive ourselves and realize we may have done things to hurt others, but we were also pushed to that. And that is part of the wheel, and it's honesty and acceptance. And if you believe it, and you're honest with yourself, and you honor your integrity, then you will know this. You're not going to try and hide from it, but you don't have to live saying, I shouldn't have done that, I shouldn't have done that, I shouldn't have done that. So it's about this karmic, this kind of justice. And the stag kind of guides you to say, like, yeah, you're okay. There is justice. You know, something is gonna, you are gonna reap what you've sown. But basically, I think it is about the integrity and the self-honesty, which is what I'm trying to be with my black dog journey. So then the starting point, or home, we've got the seer, who's kind of like the high priestess, and it's a really awesome time, a really awesome place to start from, because everything that's gone through you is here in the seer. All the life you've lived, the past, the dreams, the creativity. And the seer and the hooded man are both like the male and female, like god and goddess, or father and mother of the tarot. They're the two extremely powerful archetypes, and they're both in this spread, in the starting and the end position. And whereas the man holds the key to the tree at the heart of the forest, having survived the journey, you're guided home. But first, the seer is like my tradition to me, my gift. I've got a long history of the seer, really. My mother, as I've said before, I'm a daughter of a Highlander, a full-blooded Highlander, and from a long line of Highlanders. And Highlanders do have this kind of seership, I think, this otherworldliness and an ability to be in both worlds, except I find it harder to be in this world than the other side of the veil, really. And part of this journey is learning how to bring all my spiritual stuff that I've got and put it into this world, which is also what my North Node in my astrological chart's about too. Well, that's another thing. That's a part that tells you about your past lives, where you've come from and what you're doing in this plane and what your thing is here. There's a book called Astrology for the Soul, if you're interested in that. I can't remember the name of the author right off the bat, but it's a really good book. So, yeah, the seer's with me. As my mum said, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, we come from good, strong stock. Those words are always with me. So this is my birthright, my starting point. So that card was completely apt. And then the path, the journey, the woods, we get the 9 of arrows. And the key word here is dedication. And it's kind of about daily ritual and stuff, and not forgetting our place here, and not forgetting our own spiritual and emotional health. Like, she seems to be protected from these arrows. They're kind of flying around. And she's almost oblivious. So from this, I kind of see an inward path, like a focusing of inward. We've got to go take that path through the world, but you can, rather than be focused on all the stuff that's going on around you and distracting you, you can still focus inward and kind of move, albeit slowly maybe. The arrows to me are the things in life that hurt my soul. And I'm a vegan. I've been an activist all my life. I'm a humanitarian. Many of us are. I don't like a lot of the bad shit that goes on in the world, and we can get distracted with it and we can get pulled down with it. And when you've got the black dog next to you, you can't afford to do that too much. So these arrows going around there, to me, they're the TV, they're the radio, they're the bad news. I don't want to know. Sorry. I know they're there. I've acknowledged they're there in the past. I do all I can to fight them. But someone said, and actually it was my son, sometimes you can be too busy fighting the world's problems because you're too scared to face your own, and it is so true. So this card to me says I've got to continually remind myself of this strength, and I've got to perform, like, have daily rituals, daily times of reminding myself of this, and be dedicated to this journey and what I'm doing and my honesty and integrity. It's not, all of it's coming together. It's not disjointed. It's not, these aren't separate things. These all flow. I need to keep reminding myself of this. I need to keep reminding myself of my honesty, integrity. I need to stick to that. And then we get the hooded man, who's kind of a Robin Hood archetype in a way, Robin Hood, and kind of reminded me of my youth club when I was a kid, because the guy who ran it used to be a BBC cameraman, and he shot all the arrows for Robin Hood. And I remember my sister and I would see it on TV occasionally, and Robin Hood riding through the glen, da 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 da, and there'd be a hunting horn. But I was kind of young then, and I had hopes and dreams maybe. Well, I actually don't remember them. And I had another one really strange thought. I have never in my life planned anything, desired anything, set forward on a career. Okay, I did my college course, my degree course. That was probably the only thing I've ever planned that far ahead in my life. The other things, I've just fallen into everything. I fell into marriage. I fell into having children. I mean, I'm not saying it was an accident. I love my children. I desperately could never be without them. They are my life. But I kind of fell into it. It wasn't planned. Coming to New Zealand wasn't planned. None of it was planned. I lived from one day to the next, and that's what I've done all my life. And when I look back to my childhood, it is what I've done. I do know when I was a kid, I struggled to be in this world, and I was always looking for a home. And the guy with the lamp, I think, reminds me of that search of, like I've said before, in walking home in the dark and looking in the lighted windows and wondering what was going on, and wishing I was part of this warm family and everything. But I am part of an amazing warm family, and we always think the grass is greener. I'm still not sure where home is, but I feel at home when I'm with my mum and my sister and my children. just that we don't get together very often since I made my drastic move. But also in the Wild Magic book, Mark Ryan says that this guy's an opener of doors and to show us other ways, like maybe the doors of perception. So I read a book earlier this week, and it was called, I can't remember the author. I'll have to put it down. It was called The Prodigal Daughter or The Lost Daughter. No, The Prodigal Sister or The Lost Sister. And it's the best book I've read in a while. And it was about these four sisters from England, and one of them, when she was about 16, got pregnant and ran away to New Zealand, and they didn't hear from her for 15 years. And I didn't know when I started reading it was going to be about New Zealand and stuff. But then the sisters went on this journey to meet her again, and they did a little road trip. And it made me think, I should probably appreciate more of what I've got here. It kind of opened a door to embracing the land here and making me want to see more of the island, which I haven't had really a chance to do, what with children and always demands you need to be a taxi driver or different things or work. So just reading that book was kind of like a little symbol, a little signpost of a little bit of magic, that there's magic everywhere. And you have to look for these. And I think it was in the Wild Magic book, Mark Ryan writes an essay about it when he went somewhere and a crystal fell out of the sky. He's got some really good essays in that book. And he says, look for signs and symbols everywhere. And that's something I don't actually need to learn because I've always done it, but sometimes I forget it. So that was the journey of the opening spread. And I really think it was pretty amazing. So then the next day, the next keyword I think was wildness. And what is my wildness? And I shuffled the deck really thoroughly, put all the cards back in different places, shuffled it, and the 9 of bows fell out. I thought, no, I didn't shuffle it enough. So I put them all back and I shuffled it again and again and again, and shuffled it and cut it and shuffled it and turned it over, and the 9 of bows came up again. And he's not going to let me forget, is he? He is my wildness. I've done the craziest things when I've been depressed and really in the clutches of that black dog. I came to New Zealand when I was walking with the black dog. My last flight that I booked back to England, I did it when I was walking with the black dog. And overnight, I do these things overnight. I don't say I'm going to go to New Zealand in 6 months or whatever. It's literally 2 or 3 days. And I do things like that when I'm in the grips of the black dog. So the black dog is my wildness, which is another reason I've got to respect him, because I need to know that if we plan these wild journeys, maybe we should have a little bit more communication than we sometimes have, and maybe we should consider a bit about what's going to happen and bring the seer in to help us have a little bit of wisdom there. So that was the black dog. That was the day 2 of the spread. And then we had day 3, and I got boundaries. The keyword was boundaries, sorry, and I got endurance. The 5 of stones. Now, this in the tarot is this is my card. This is me. The 5 of pentacles is me, always sitting there on the outside. Sorry, I've got to drink a bit of tea. Looking in, but it is about endurance, and we need, and relating it to boundaries, sometimes about this focusing and looking in and trying to deal with all our own stuff. We do need to set up boundaries, and we can't allow the needs of others to take our energy and strength away from our own personal battle, because, as I said before, sometimes focusing on others and their problems and world issues is a way of avoiding facing our own stuff in darkness. And we've got to look into ourselves and look at this fire. Because sometimes we do get distracted and we don't realise we're doing it. And knowing how to say no. And that's a skill that you actually need to survive. So this card, you can't really endure some things without boundaries. So this card is a pretty good example of that, I think. Then I think we had light. And did we have light? No, we had shadow. And I got balance, which is very, again, very yin yang, very animus animal, very much about embracing the shadow, embracing the dark side. So again, these cards seem to be coming in like really good. It shows the dark and the light. You've got the masked half of the face and the light and the dark asp. And here it's about reaching a place of inner calm. And this is the one where Mark Ryan wrote the story about Richard Gere cutting his eye with a sword accidentally, because he was panicking or something and ran in when he shouldn't have done. So it's about reaching inner calm and balance before you can deal with anything else, like outside of you. So to me, it means I've got to look into my darker, shadowy self and explore it. Explore why I continually dwell in the past. Why do I find it so hard to be in the present? Lots of things like that. Why do I hang on to old chains and old guilt? I need to really, I say a lot to people, regret is a wasted emotion, and I believe it, but I actually don't really grasp it in that sense in my own life. I believe it, I just don't live it. And keeping those boundaries in place while I'm attempting to create this inner balance is really, really important. So you've got to embrace all of the sides. And all of the points from all of the cards so far are still sticking with me. And each card seems to add another little tiny bit to it and keep the story going. So then we got day 5, which was light. And I got the 4 of arrows, which has lost its... I need to try and get another copy of this card because the bottom got chopped off accidentally. And this is kind of like the rest card. Traditionally, the 4 of swords, where you got the rider-waite. So if you got the person sitting up in the bed with the 4 swords there, and it's about time out, which we all need to thrive. But it seems a funny card for light until you see the butterfly. And, well, you know what the caterpillar called the end, the master called the butterfly. So the chrysalis is time out for that light, that glow to emerge. And the butterfly is kind of casting his light over the sleeping figure. And sleep is something that is so important to emotional well-being. Mine's been really screwed up for the last year. It's totally fucks with your psyche. So that's something, to me, I had not been sleeping at all well. This card, when it actually came the other day, said to me, look, you've got to concentrate on small things, and one of them is get some sleep, get a decent night's sleep. So I tried really hard to do that. Got some new sleep tea, and I'm trying really hard with the sleep thing. So the last day was day 6, and I did take a card from this, but how I did it was I went to my tree oracles. I've got this, which is a Celtic tree oracle, and the current tree at the moment for this part of the year in New Zealand is the oak tree. We're in the season of the oak, and the key word for the day 6 with the challenge was support. And what better support could you have than a great big strong oak tree? And it's also again so I've got 3 tree oracles. I've got the Celtic Ogham oracle, which is that one, and then I've got the I'm not sure, that might be the Celtic tree oracle. This one only came out this year, but I like or last year, but I love the diagrams on it, and it was a very cheap one. And this one I've had a long time. I'm not sure what that one's called. It might be called the Celtic Tree Oracle again, but I got them out, and I've got my Oghams, and this is the one for oak, and it is actually made out of oak wood. So I use these trees. I've used them for years. I use them all year round. I get them out. The trees last like 6 weeks or so. They have a season for each tree. So because it was number 7, I shuffled the deck and shuffled the deck and shuffled the deck, the Wildwood deck, and then I counted down from the top card down to the 7th card, and I got the Pole Star. which is kind of like the star. It's support. It's strength. It's like everything good for the journey. So getting that card, I'll just have a quick check what does it say here? The universal law, higher spiritual knowledge and power. The first breath of creation formed the stars and binds them together. Blah, blah, blah. And our own star, of course, is the sun, and it has this huge power. So I've got a lot of power on my side, and the power, the big power of the universal law to support me in my journey. So there we go. This is how I'm doing my Into the Wild Woods. And I've told you a bit about how I'm managing my walking with this black dog. I'm like trying to make friends with it. You can put it on a leash, I guess, but I don't think that would work very well. You can feel it coming. I think denying it is not a good thing. I think when it does start to come, you probably need to embrace it and immediately start kicking into the things that you know are going to help before you get to the worst point. Because then there is only blackness. It is like clouds. It's like those lanicular clouds that pile up, or pancake clouds, and they pile up. You see them floating around the sky, these flat pancake clouds, and they're called lanicular, I think. And when you see them all pile up, especially over a tall hill or a mountain, it means it's going to rain, and you're going to get rain. And that's when you've got to be careful. So you just need to take shelter before they get all piled up together. And you need to look for the signs and for the warnings, and not let it get you down. So I'll put some links below. Thanks for listening and watching, and I hope I haven't bored you too much. But and the other thing I was going to show you was like this. One of the best ever books for kids and adults about embracing the shadow side and the dark side. And it's just one of the most amazing. This book broke so many different boundaries when it was published. Actually embracing this dark side and saying to kids, yeah, there is a dark side, and yes, you can deal with it. It's such an empowering book. So if you've got kids and they don't have this book, then you're committing a serious crime. If you're an adult and you don't have this book, then again, you're also committing a serious crime. Everyone needs a copy of this book. I've probably had about 4 because the kids get them and they've all got their own copy. And my oldest one I gave to my grandson. But I'm not going to be without one. So, yeah, where the wild things are is where we find our strength. So there we go. That was Into the Wild Wood. I might do another video, but thank you, Kelly, and thank you all of you, especially on Instagram. I haven't been doing Facebook or anything lately because I just can't face it, really. It's one of those distractions, one of those wild arrows I can do without. I've never done Twitter, but I love Instagram. So thank you, all of you there, for your support and love, and on YouTube, of course. Yeah, thanks for listening. Bye.